Trek to Yomi is a samurai game developed by Devolver Digital, and it takes all its inspiration from the Kurasawa samurai films. This is as much as a blessing as it is a curse, as they pay homage to the Kurosawa films almost to a fault. The Japanese style presentation that's black and white with Japanese dialogue, although brings authenticity to the presentation, may be unappealing for some as the entire game is in Japanese audio with subtitles. There is no language option for audio in any other language other than Japanese. The graphics themselves are okay at best, but the art design is on point and really captures the theme of the Kurosawa films. The audio is also good and sharp, especially when it comes to combat, as the clanging and sounds of swords dangling one another make it really good and bring the immersion to another level. When it comes to gameplay of this game, there are two parts to the gameplay. First, when you're not in combat and you're just exploring the game world, it uses set camera pieces, some of which are in motion, some of which are not, similar to that of the old Resident Evil games. And it really helps mold, and the camera moves along throughout its environments that are well designed. The other part of the gameplay is when it comes to combat. The combat itself is literally in 2D form. You literally only go left and right, and enemies can only come from one or the other side. In doing so, because the combat is only 2D and left and right, it really hinders the mechanics and how much fun the game can actually be. When you come from a game like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a full-on 3D open world, the combat here, although it's serviceable, it gets stale because there's not much to do. Yes, your character does gain more abilities and tactics as you progress through the game, but in saying that, you only have a couple of loops that you'll find. You'll find a couple combos that you like, and you'll use them for the duration of the game. The combat is probably the weakest part of this game, not only because it's 2D, because of the problems of the camera. The camera work is inconsistent, to say the least. Sometimes it's nice and close and you can read all the movements and see what's happening on screen, while other times it's convoluted. You even have debris in the way, or at times the camera is so far back that it makes it hard to read things like parries and movements of your enemy because of how the camera is placed. Despite that, the controls themselves, though, are tight. The controls are responsive, they're not complicated, it's easy to get into, and they work really well. But despite how good the controls are, you are hindered by the camera angles and the way the camera is used in this game. The best part when it comes to combat and the gameplay is, without question, the boss battles. They are the shining star. Very similar to Ghost of Tsushima, how Ghost of Tsushima, when you would have duels and it would be like a one-on-one scenario in the left and right form, this game takes that same similar cues where boss battles are typically 1v1. The camera is usually in a good position so that it doesn't get in the way, and the boss battles are challenging. It kind of gives somewhat of a Souls-light feel to it, where you need to read your enemies' movements and attacks and parry them accordingly. While you're exploring this game, though, you will encounter shrines, and these shrines are essentially your save points, as well as recharge your character's health and stamina. Now, it needs to be said that these shrines are in abundance. You find them very often, and it's not hard to play the game for 20 minutes, half hour, and find a save point. I mean, they are in abundance. The good thing is when I say this game is a Souls-light, you don't have to worry about losing any currency or going back to your soul. There's none of that. I say Souls-light in the sense that you just have to read enemy movements and know when to parry and what to use when to use them. When it comes to character upgrades, you will find them along the main path for the most part. You can explore during the exploration sections to find things such as collectibles or things to increase your health and stamina meter, but I found that most of the stuff of relevance is found along the main path, and that you're basically looking for odds and ends collectibles when it comes to exploration. So exploration themselves isn't particularly special in this game. I talked about one of the issues of this game being the camera, especially when it comes to the combat. There were two other issues that I had with Trek to Yomi. Number one was performance. There are frame rate stutters, and despite having a 3080 Ti, the optimization in this game is not as where it should be. For someone who has such a strong PC, to have these frame rate stutters in a non-graphically demanding game is kind of unacceptable in my opinion. I mean, this game is not visually outstanding in any way in terms of a technical standpoint, and having frame rate stutters in a game like this doesn't make sense, not with given my hardware. The second issue I had was the lack of a color option. Now I understand that this game was whole inspired by the Kurasawa films, but not having a color option is a negative in my book. And I say this because the environments themselves I think are gorgeous and they are very well designed, especially when some of the animation kicks in and some of the things that happen throughout the later levels. It's really, really good. And not having a color option takes away from the beauty that these environments could be. And I think that had there been a color option, at the very least, have it as an option would have made a world of difference in terms of visual prowess and presentation. Think Ghost of Tsushima, where it offered both black and white and color, and the game was absolutely gorgeous in color. And it's a shame that Trek to Yomi did not offer a color option. Aside from this, Trek to Yomi is a game that I would only recommend as a Game Pass title, which it currently is, or as a game that you can get on sale for the cheap at around the $10 range. Its current retail price brand new is $27 Canadian, a price that I think is a little rich for this title, especially if you're on PlayStation, because Trek to Yomi is on Game Pass on PC and Xbox, so they have it easy. But for PlayStation players, I wouldn't recommend it because of the existence of Ghost of Tsushima, which is a much better samurai game, and I'm pretty sure you can find it used or on sale on the regular at this point in time. Overall, I will give Trek to Yomi a 6 out of 10. It is a game worth checking out on Game Pass, and it is a game that if you can find on the cheap and you have already played Ghost of Tsushima, sure, give it a shot. But at the end of the day, 6 out of 10 is how I feel about this game. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.